Honor Mass and the President's report to Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Civic. Thank you, Mr. Civic. Just want to quickly update the board. Today was our first day for students in person. So we had our elementary students in person, some students on virtual learning, and then our high school was our first day of our hybrid option. So it's a lot of work. Thank the administrators here, our entire staff that made this a smooth day overall, considering all the guidelines and stipulations that were under from the state and the Department of Health. So it was really a great team effort by everybody involved in that process. So we're really excited to have the kids back. It's just the energy that they bring, even in uncertain times and difficult times, is just incredible. And you know, I saw a lot of kids that were extremely happy to be back. Some a little anticipation. For sure, but again, our staff did an incredible job of welcoming everyone back. So I just wanted to talk a little bit quickly about an error that was found in the tax bills that went out to taxpayers. The initial tax bills that went out, there was an error that came out of the assessor's office that really revolved around exclusions for taxes not being included in the entire rolls and not pulled out of the rolls. So for a specific example, Central New York Oil and Gas, who was a pilot for the school district, that number is roughly about $3 million that was included into the rolls, which it should not have been. So therefore, there was an error that came out of the Tiger County's assessor's office. There was some miscommunication, I think, between the town and the resolution along with the assessor's office, which caused there to be an error in the tax bills. So new tax bills went out. We've been getting several phone calls about those taxes. Quite honestly, most of the bills appear to go up because of the total rolls on the assessed value increased, which drove everybody's tax bills down because of that exclusion of the pilot and Central New York Oil and Gas primarily. So we tried to correct that. We sent a letter out to all the taxpayers to explain that there was an error, and we certainly appreciate the flexibility and understanding as we work through this here this fall. So these are updated tax rates that you can see here. Anybody has any questions regarding these?
These are the
Yeah, it really just comes down to the calculation from the exclusions and the errors around a pilot being included in the regular rolls instead of staying on the pilot side. So that's really what that correction needed to be. Any questions?
As far as the what caused the error, I'm not convinced that it was entirely out of the assessor's office. From information that I received, it's just unfortunate that it happened. I hate when we get into situations where we have to start pointing fingers. So I think it's safe to say that it was an honest mistake. It's a very difficult calculation to do, and I think everybody learned something from this for future years. But as you mentioned, the pilot situation is very precarious in this district, and it's going to be problematic as we move into the future. So I just wanted to kind of not hammer the assessor's office entirely on this.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Hill, we need to adapt this new information. Okay, so we're all set with that. Okay, so in moving down to district business, first item of 9.1. These are the reserve funds. So we're reporting to you the reserve funds and how they currently stand. As you can see, the balances as of June 30th, 2019. If you scroll all the way to the right, you see the balances of 6/30/2020. If you go down to the bottom, you can see that there's been very little movement on the reserve side, other than you do recall that we used the repair reserve to repair a pipe over at Appalachian that was in need of emergency repair, the sewage pipe that runs down the main hall of the building. So you can see that for the most part, they've stayed consistent here. And looking at 2020 and 2021, we currently have no reserves earmarked into this budget. Any questions about that? 9.2 is the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education does and hereby approves $40,398.94 to be used from the unemployment insurance reserve for the payment of unemployment insurance expenditures during the period of 5/1/20 through 7/3/20. The funds will be appropriated into the 2020-21 general fund appropriation in the budget code A under unemployment insurance. Any questions about that? Comments? That Marcy needs a.
Corey, just a question on this. This is just a funding source, or are we actually increasing the budget?
I have a clarification on this. 40,000.
You know, if it's an increase to the budget, that, or is it just funding we're taking money out of the unemployment? To pay last year's. Okay. All right, I get it. So. Right, I understand. Okay. So this is a resolution to take money from the purpose of which is unemployment to cover our unemployment costs for the year ended June 30th of 2020. So I need a motion. Dave, do I have a second? Kathy, any questions on this? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you. So at this moment, I'd like to take time as we transition here to give a quick budget update and presentation to the board regarding current status of the 20% reduction in state aid. So as we transition here. There we go. So, as the board's well aware, we've had some conversations in prior meetings regarding the revenue situation that we're currently in, and most school districts are currently in across the entire state. As you well know, the governor has come out with a flat 20% to state aid, a reduction across the board for our school district and for all school districts across the entire state. So tonight I'm just going to talk a little bit about this financial projection, considering these reductions. I talk about possible federal stimulus implications and the latest on that, and also potential layoffs based on the 20% reduction. So the board has seen this slide before. So for our school district, when we analyze our state aid, we are looking at a 20% reduction from New York State in state aid, which is a revenue for us of about $4.6 million. So you can go across and see where these reductions have occurred. So if you look at the September of 2019 and 20, okay, and you see some reductions there. Now you look at 2021 and look at the $566,312 reduction. So one of the things to keep in mind is we've already seen a reduction in last year's end of the year aid from July 20th to 21, which is all the way to the right, $378,559. So we're currently, when you add those two numbers together, we're in the about $900,000 range of being short in state aid at the moment, with more to come in October and December. So you can see here how this really plays out when it comes to the total state aid reduction for our school district. This is a significant amount of money for our school district. If you look at the bottom right would be the legal use of reserves for this school year. This is what we are allowed to use by law, which is $1.2 million. So that is the recommended amount that comes from our central business office as we work closely with them. Any further reductions in the fund balance, we automatically would start to put ourselves into fiscal distress. So one of the things to keep in mind with this is not a one-year problem. This is a multiple-year problem. So we may need reserves or fund balance down the road within this problem. So you can see really how those projections go. So if you look at September of 20, we're currently about $939,000 in loss of aid from New York State. And then another additional $456,000 in December. So that puts us at about, we get to the end of December, we're looking at about $1.3 million reduction in state aid. So in creating a scenario for the board, one of the things that we've been working on behind the scenes is what does this look like in terms of positions in our school district? And there's a range of different positions in our school district. So from the September and October point, a 20% reduction is just shy of $1 million in funds that we will lose in aid if there are no adjustments made and there is no bailout from the feds or the state. So that equates to about 25 to 30 positions roughly towards the middle and the end of October from this funding source of state aid. By December, we're looking at an additional, again, $456,000. That would be an additional roughly 10 to 15 positions. And let me be clear on this as we move forward. This will be extremely detrimental to our school district, to our programs and to our students and our community and our staff. And when I talk about March, what the March reduction would look like, we have a number there next to it. When it gets to that point, it becomes difficult to even consider how we function as a school district with that many cuts within 1 year. So we're faced with really a difficult task as an entire school district and Board of Education and decisions that we make moving forward through these scenarios here. So we sit and wait a little bit to see what's going to happen at the federal level. So far, there doesn't seem to be much movement of any funds, stimulus funds coming to school districts anytime soon. We're hopeful that might be the case, but it doesn't look very promising at the moment. So we share this with you to be transparent, to be upfront, to be frank about our current situation. We are really no different than most school districts across New York State. They range, we're roughly in the 50% reliant on tax revenue and 50% reliant on state aid. Some districts are 75, 80% reliant on state aid. So it really isn't a fair way to do this when he comes across the board and says, I'm cutting 20%, because he doesn't include poverty in the whole scenario. It's just basically taking 20% of your state aid at the moment, which becomes extremely difficult as you move forward to offer programs for students. So again, you can see in June, I'm not even going to really talk a whole lot about June, because as I said, even in March, we're in a really, really difficult place where it would be extremely hard to operate a school district. The June payment is about 1.5 million. You add in what we've already lost or we'll lose in September of 21, and you're looking at, again, about $4.6 million in reduction. So, again, as I said before, we're hopeful that Congress will act. We've heard or read anywhere between $1 trillion versus a $3 trillion negotiation, but so far there's been no movement. New York State, the governor has stated several times, they have to have a bailout for schools, municipalities, that just can't function. So one of the things that we have to consider is there's really no guarantees in this shortfall that we're currently in. There's just so many unknowns at the moment. We don't know where we stand in terms of what this revenue is going to look like. Now, we've been patient because we've been waiting and watching and listening and trying to understand what the current fiscal temperature is at the state and federal level. So again, we have to think long-term as well. This budget shortfall is initial of about 4.6 million, but we expect revenues to be much worse the following year. So we're planning and preparing again for a tough budget season, not only right at the moment, but for 2021-22. Anybody have any questions regarding where we're currently at? I know the board's heard this several times. You know, we've talked about it at meetings. I've shared some updates with staff as well regarding the community, regarding our situation of this reduction in state aid and the challenges that we face in that.
Said it. One thing we don't have any members of the public here, we already approved this transfer last year, right, for 40,000. We already approved this $40,000 transfer from reserve. So, with that, I guess we'll move here. Ken? Jason, all in favor? Aye. It's carried. Good night, everyone.